views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. When Councilman Mark Jonai was elected to the City Council in the fall, it opened up the seat in the Bronx's 80th Assembly District. That seat will be filled by special election on Tuesday, April 24th. Tonight we present the debate for the Bronx 80th Assembly District, which serves the Allerton, Bedford Park, Morris Park, Marshall Parkway, Norwood, Pelham Parkway, Pelham Gardens, and Van Nest communities. There are two candidates running in this race. They are both with us tonight, and they are from the Democratic Party. It is Nathalia Fernandez, former Chief of Staff for Mark Jonai. Nice to have you with us, Ms. Fernandez. And from the Republican Party, it is Gene DeFrancis, the founder of the Allerton International Merchants Association. Mr. DeFrancis, nice to have you with us.
Good to be here, Gary. Thank you.
Tonight's debate is co-sponsored by the Bronx Times, the Norwood News, the Bronx Free Press, and the League of Women's Voters, a nonpartisan political organization that advocates for informed and active participation in government and works to increase understanding of major public policy issues. We're thrilled to have them and all of them on board. Primary election, again, is Tuesday, April 24th. All eligible voters, of course, are encouraged to vote. Candidates, in tonight's debate, I will direct a question to one candidate. That candidate will respond, and then we will have a free-flowing dialogue that each candidate can participate in, with the original respondent having the final say on the question before the next question is asked. At the end of the program, each candidate will be given the opportunity to deliver a 1-minute closing statement. Please note that tonight's questions include those submitted by the candidates themselves. By prior agreement, the first question will be directed to Ms. Fernandez. Again, thank you for joining us. As I mentioned, there's no incumbent in this race, and neither candidate has served in elected office before. Talk about your experience as compared to your opponent and why, presumably, you think that you will be a superior choice for voters in the 80th Assembly District.
Thank you, Gary. I believe that I am the candidate of choice for this district because I already served the 80th Assembly District with my position as Chief of Staff to then Assemblymember Mark Jonai. I've worked with every neighborhood, every community leader, nearly every attendance association, and I have a deep understanding of what this district is asking for and what they're looking for. On top of that, my experience extends to the governor's office. This past year, I was appointed to the governor's regional representative team as the Bronx regional representative, and that allowed me to work more with state agencies and understand the operation of how government functions. And with that, I understand, I guess, the time sensitivity of things, and I know how to get things done and seek deliveries.
Okay, thank you very much. You can certainly talk about your own experience. You want to respond? It's up to you.
Especially since the Merchants Association were one of those resources that she called to help get things done in the district. I worked with Nathalia. I know Nathalia very well. I think what separates us is the deep roots within the district. As a male, I know for a fact I can't fully understand what women go through. I defer to the intelligent women around me. Likewise, if you haven't gone to public schools in the Bronx, you can't fully understand the problems in the public schools in the Bronx. If you're not a veteran, you can't fully understand the problems that veterans are dealing with. If you're not a union leader, you don't fully understand what unions are dealing with. And if you're not born and raised in the Bronx, remember the days when the Bronx, at least in our district, we left the windows open and the doors open. I was there when all of a sudden the gates went up and neighbors stopped talking to neighbors, and there was a fear. I want to eliminate that fear. I want to bring in the resources that I have outside of the political elite circles, and I want to work together. we have still plenty of Republicans, conservatives, and what they call unaffiliated now in our district. We don't have deep-rooted Democrats as a majority. We have people that believe they're Democrats because that's what they were conditioned growing up. So the numbers are skewed. They're not really accurate, and what I want to do is I want to bring us all together.
You want to respond?
My entire career has been about bringing people together and finding solutions to the problems. While I wasn't necessarily raised in the district, I have deep ties to the district. My family was not born, but because they immigrated here. But new family was born there. Family from my respective ethnicities, Cuban Colombia, came to this district, and I spent many summers there. So I do have an understanding. But I do think that's a little silly to say just because I wasn't born and raised or even understand the school system, because, again, I've been through every school. I've seen their successes. I've seen where they're striving or where they need assistance. And I believe I'm able to bring the assistance needed, knowing what I've already seen and seen what is possible.
But at least you can respect what I'm saying, because you went to a very privileged school. You didn't deal with the problems that the student. Not by fault, and I don't fault you by it. It's not a knock, but it's just you need to have a respect of the understanding. And by saying you want to unify us, I've read some of your literature. You alienate 9,000 Republicans that live in our district with some of the rhetoric that you have, and we got to cut out the political nonsense that's going on in our district.
Let's let you have the final word, and then we'll move on. Go ahead.
I don't think I've alienated anybody. I've always been welcoming to any citizen, individual person that has brought a concern to me. So if anyone does have a concern, a problem, an issue, need help, I've always been there, and I continue to practice that method.
Mr. DeFrancis, let's continue on what you've already started talking about. And you've suggested what I think all of us know. Politics across the country are bitterly divided between red and blue. Talk about that division between the two candidates. You've already started by bringing it up. And how that distinction affects what voters should consider as they go into the ballot box to vote in the 80th.
Sure. So I haven't tried heavily to pander to the Republican base. I'm an unaffiliated, independent candidate, not to be confused as an independent. Right out of the gate, I was attacked as being a Republican, and I take no offense to that. What I want people to realize is Republicans and Democrats need to realize that we're on the same team, we're in the same family, and we're worried about a wall on our southern border. We're creating a political wall between the two parties, and communication is only affecting the working class people in our district, not the political elite, because they're making money off of selling fear to the people in our district. And that's the way they motivate people to donate to their campaigns, through fear tactics and other such rhetoric. And I don't agree with that. I think we have real crisis problems, like the opioid crisis, and we need to come up with real solutions and nonpartisan solutions.
I'm assuming you want to respond to that.
I mean, it's obvious that the political parties in the bigger sense have created a division. But again, this is about the community, and this is about finding the solutions to our problems now. So red or blue, whatever color, the goal is to find solutions and to better our communities.
Okay, you get the final word if you wanted to add something.
It's not it's easy to say, I guess, but when you have literature saying, the sitting president of the United States and using fear tactics, like be afraid because the president's coming.
Hold it up, you can
I sure can. The president is coming to get you with angry rhetoric on the front, knowing that I'm the only candidate, stating that I don't, or insinuating maybe we can clear this up now, that you share the values of the district. And are we insinuating I don't share the values in the district? Or
I'm insinuating that the Republican Party right now has instilled fear, especially with the way that the current president has decided to throw out policies. He's attacking our immigrants. Our immigrant community is a large portion of the 80th Assembly District and the Bronx. He's deliberately put out there that they don't belong here, building walls in communities and in the southern border, as he said. Our health care. He's continually attacked our health care and taken away rights from children and women and seniors. So to say that our president is not threatening, not attacking, is false.
You get the final word if you'd like it, sir.
As the candidate for the Republican Party, having spoken to the Bronx GOP extensively about various issues, I can tell you very comfortably that we are willing and want to solve our immigration problems, not create it as a campaign debate and fodder for the election. We want to come to real solutions and work together and welcome people from all different backgrounds, all different politics, all different nationalities, man, woman, young, old. We want to come together. And that's the Republican Party in the Bronx going forward.
Let's talk about, Ms. Fernandez, let's talk about immigration. New York City has been designated as a sanctuary city. Do you favor this designation? And if so, would you recommend expanding it to the entire state, as has been done in other states, including Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Illinois, California? What do you think?
I think that we should continue doing what we've been doing. New York as a state has always been welcoming to the immigrant population and providing that sanctuary, that safe shelter for them. I do believe that we should continue to assist in different ways. Recently, the legislation has put together the Liberty Defense Project, which helps in giving free legal services. I think that's only fair to help these residents of the state that are paying taxes, giving back to their communities, shopping in their communities, the ability to be able to stay.
Okay, sir?
I think we need to bring more common sense to these questions because they're very broad and general. A sanctuary city basically means that the local government, the communities, the municipalities don't communicate and work with the federal government. That's what a sanctuary city is. It's not this big blue, everybody's safe, everybody live together free. It means that actual criminals are protected under this sanctuary city. So we need to come to common sense where criminals are punished, and I'm not talking just people that are crossing over the border. There should be a fine, and there should be an agreement to DACA immediately because we're just stalling, and the only reason that there's a stall tactic is because the party is making money off of this immigration debate. It's ridiculous, and it needs to, because I work with men and women that came here undocumented. They work in my community. They work in the Merchants Association. They're great people, and they're living in fear, and we need to help them not live in fear and welcome them.
You got the final word here if you'd like it.
I do think we should come to an agreement on DACA. We should protect those that are giving to the community, serving, living, and enjoying this community.
You've brought it up once or twice, Mr. DeFrancis. The opioid epidemic is literally killing people all over, in particular in the 80th Assembly District, across the state and the nation. What can be done to fight this crisis?
Quite simple. A 3666. It's a bill that's being stalled in the Assembly for whatever reason, maybe political, maybe not. But it needs to go through the process immediately because we need it now. And basically what A 3666 is, it gives loved ones, guardians, permission to, if they have a loved one that needs treatment, to get treatment. Because quite literally, in our very own district, in our parks, in our bathrooms, public bathrooms, people are passing away due to overdose. It needs to stop. We need to take quick and decisive action against it.
The opioid epidemic needs to be addressed in three ways, in my opinion. Education. We need to start educating our youth, our young adults, even our seniors, really as much as we can about the results, the consequences of using these drugs. They need to find signs of those who are addicted. They need to know where help is. In addition to that, we need to be able to provide Narcan in public spaces. Narcan is the reversal drug in case someone's overdosing. It can reverse the overdose and possibly save their life. Those need to be available in public spaces such as libraries, schools, small businesses, in public bathrooms even. If in fact there is an overdose in front of you, that neighbor can save your life. Lastly, we need to continue to fund our treatment centers and have them readily available to the community. But I do disagree with my opponent in that we should be forcing individuals into treatment. It's been found through studies that individuals forced into treatment have a higher relapse rate. Through education and prevention and accessible recovery, I think we can overcome the opioid crisis.
Well,
Then you disagree with your own Democrat Party because Marcos Crespo is the one who's championed this bill. I mean, we can't just sit back and watch people die. They're not in the right mental health frame of making that decision.
But we can't be forceful on it.
We have to. because I have loved ones that suffer with addiction, whether it's alcohol, prescription drugs. Maybe you don't, I do, and I know for a fact we try to get them in treatment. They're not in the right mind frame, and we're just watching them deteriorate and crumble, and I'm not going to stand by and watch them die. So yes, we're going to get them into treatment. We're going to untie the
Well, that goes with the
physician's
education.
hands.
You can tie them into treatment. You can guide them to treatment, but it has to be the individual who wants to stay.
That's
forcing them to stay is just going to pull them back.
But it's not reality. We need to, and I'm not talking about locking them up in jail. It's illegal to do illegal drugs.
I'm not saying that either.
But we need to compassionately take care of those with an addiction.
Ms. Fernandez, the state legislature just approved an unprecedented amount of funding for education in the state budget. Funding aside, what is needed to improve education in the 80th Assembly District? For example, do you favor raising the cap on charter schools to create more options for parents?
Not necessarily. I am focused on public schools. It's our public schools that are really hurting right now. Too many of the public schools in my district, 108, 121, they have trailers. We need to get the children out of the trailers and start expanding the schools to build classrooms. And with more of that funding, to resource the classrooms with adequate technology and supplies and resources for the children. On top of that, we need to expand our schools into community schools. The school should be basically a community center, a hub of the neighborhood, of the area, to allow businesses to even prosper. We should have more after-school programs for children of all ages, including sports, the arts, even adults, GED classes, maybe even some medical assistance, dental care. Our schools the buildings are there. They need to be used longer, and we need to make that possible.
Go ahead.
In my
Mr.
last interview
DeFrancis.
with Darren, I listed many of those issues. I'm in full agreement with all that. I want to go one step further. I want to redistribute zone schooling, and I want all public schools to be K through 8. When a child is known as a 5-year-old in the school, they're more easily to be guided and nurtured, as opposed to throwing them now into middle school where the teachers have to learn this new child and individual, and they pigeonhole them in a different light, possibly. So we need to go back to zone schooling. The bullying issue will be taken care of, the overcrowding in an MTA, because we're busing our students all throughout the county. They won't solve those issues, but they will definitely show some positive results in it. So I think the zone schooling is, in addition what Natty said, is the proper way to go.
Mm-hmm. You get the final word here.
The schools are already zoned. Per zip code, you're designated and suggested to go to a certain school, but the problem is that the schools are not at the same level. So we need to build up the schools first before we think about confining the students into the school that may not be best for them or what the parent thinks is best for them.
Okay. Mr. DeFrancis, commercial districts in the 80th are littered with empty storefronts here, there. I mean, you have different pockets of them. How can we not only get them filled, but empower small businesses so that they can survive?
So I initiated in our district in Allerton, which we don't have many storefronts empty and vacant, but we do have several that are of a concern to us. Communication is key, but the incubator project helps inspire local people to get together and grow their business. Too many times the fees are too high, the regulations and the rules, they intimidate local people to start their own business. It's a major issue that we need to help and get them starting as a seed in these incubator projects. For those of you that don't know what an incubator project is, they share a space, and when they build their clientele and their resources, they can then move on into an empty brick and mortar. I think through communication, not so much through government, but it needs to be supported by the elected officials and nurtured all together as one community, help small businesses grow and go into these vacant buildings.
The question is small businesses.
Small businesses, well, the small business industry in the district is prominent. We have many different corridors that house avenues of small businesses. But yes, there are vacancies, and I do agree that the elected officials and community leaders need to work together to help fill those vacancies, invite new businesses there, maybe have the elected have a hand in different, bigger businesses that would differentiate some of the already common things you see, like the fast food places. But I would also initiate and support the the addition of bids in these areas. A business improvement district brings government funding and resources to the corridors, whether through cleaning up the neighborhoods or giving funding for more events that would draw in more buyers and hopefully then allow the business to continue to strive. But in addition to, I guess, an elected official's assistance in government businesses and bringing new small businesses, we need to expand the MWBE program, the Minority and Women Businesses grant, basically, that assists minority and women business owners to have a more fair playing field, really, in there.
Thank you very much. You get the final word, sir.
Thank you. Ultimately, communication is the key. Whether it's a bid or not a bid, I'm not against the bid, as long as it's run properly. I think the Merchants Association on Allerton ran better than several bids that I communicate with. But communication is the key, and we can't have people blocking that communication for political reasons or because they want control. So as long as government is out of the conversation of the bid and lets the bid form within itself on its own throughout the community, then I'm extremely comfortable with the bid. But communication and variety is key. Right now we have the same stores popping up on every other block. The families are not coming out because they're not excited to window shop like they used to be. It's the same store on every other block. It's different. It's isolating the community. So we need to inspire. I'm all for women and minorities in business. I don't want to see anybody interested in starting a business obstructed because they're a female or because the color of their skin. That's not acceptable. But at the same time, I want to see more variety.
Thank you. Ms. Fernandez, Bronx subway and bus riders are simply beside themselves. Delays and slowdowns are routine, and no one could deny the system has been poorly managed and underfunded. Yet rather than collaborating on solutions, both the mayor and governor are at loggerheads. What needs to be done to fix the city's broken transit system? And I'll throw one idea that's been suggested: is congestion pricing a viable source for mass transit funding?
Well, that's what it is. It's a viable source because it's making a direct revenue of income for the MTA issues. We know that the trains need to be updated. We know that the technological system needs to be updated, and the work needs to be done immediately, but funding is needed. So the state, the Assembly particularly, has passed legislation that would put congestion pricing on for-hire vehicles entering that box in Manhattan. I'm in agreement with this because it is really the for-hire vehicles that has caused most of the congestion, but people are using more of these Ubers because the subway system's unreliable. So as a first step, I think that is a good way to go. I think the city needs to come up with their half because that's basically been the debate. You give your half and we give ours.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Mr. DeFrancis?
I don't think many people in our district are using Uber. I think those that need to get into the city, they're cramming themselves in these tiny hot boxes that are sometimes not the best smelling because we're allowing our homeless residents to sleep inside of them. And it's very uncomfortable for those who have to get up to work every morning and come home. If we want to talk about congestion pricing, then we need to look in our tourist industry. We have thousands and thousands of tourists coming into our neighborhoods, and they are utilizing during rush hour traffic our transit system when we need to get our local people to work. I think if we're going to change pricing, we need to up the price on those that are visiting our neighborhoods and let the people, the men and women that work here and invest here, get to work like they need to and from. And I also agree that it just suits my purpose how political infighting only hurts the working class, because that's what's going on. You have the city and the state fighting, and no one's talking.
You get the final word. Excuse me. You get the final word here, and then we'll go to closing statements.
Well, I do think the current congestion pricing plan would benefit off the tourists. Obviously, they're all going to Manhattan, and a majority of them wanting to get around as quicker than possible, not knowing the subway system is the for-hire vehicles. So that would benefit into that.
We have come to the point in our program, candidates, when we will have closing statements. And by prior agreement, Ms. Fernandez, you get the first one. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you again for hosting us here at this debate. Thank you, BronxNet, and the sponsors for putting this together. I am a public servant. I have dedicated my career to public service, and I am passionate about this community. My passion and dedication is what has caused many to support my candidacy and endorse me, including community leaders, tenant leaders, elected officials, and our brothers and sisters in labor. There's been a lot done already in the district. I look forward to doing more. I hope to be able to do more. I ask for your support and your vote on April 24th. And together we can continue growing this community into the great community it needs to be.
Mr. DeFrancis, 1 minute.
On April 24th, you have the choice to continue going forward with the political gridlock that we're experiencing here in the Bronx day in and day out that's affecting the working class people in our neighborhoods. I'm looking towards putting together all the people in our community from every different background, religion, man, woman, Republican, Democrat. We're all going to work together to solve the crisis and the issues that we face. I am a veteran of the United States Navy, a man that is willing to literally put his life on the line and serve in honor, courage, and commitment. You know that you're safe with my administration and in my hands because I'm from the community, I'm for the community, and we're going to work together to solve our issues.
Thank you very much, candidates. While you may not agree on everything, I know you will all agree with me that every voter should come out to vote on April 24th. Also, we want to thank our co-sponsors. Again, they are the Bronx Times, the Bronx Free Press, the Norwood News, and the League of Women Voters. For more information, you can call the League of Women Voters at 212-725-3541. Thank you for watching. Thanks to our candidates.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks to our producer, Helen Greenberg. Our director is William Guzman. And please make sure, especially if you're in the 80th Assembly District, you go out and vote on April 24th. Good night.